I have mentioned before on this show that Ernestine and I are big Jeopardy fans. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. But we tape all five and watch all five every Friday night and/or maybe a couple on Saturday night, depending on what's going on with games on Friday night, such as LeBron games. We've been doing this for 17 years that we've been together. So recently, when a friend offered us tickets to go to a Jeopardy taping here in Los Angeles, I mentioned to Ernestine that, hey, maybe we should bucket list this while we're still living here 15 minutes from the Sony studios down in Culver City, just south of us, where they do tape Jeopardy. Maybe we should just go. That's when Ernestine decided to call a Jeopardy producer that she knows and quote unquote drop a hint that we wanted to attend a taping. And yeah, he said they would love to have me and to have us. And yeah, I big timed it. And I got valet parking, and I got VIP treatment. I got front row seats, the whole nine. This was last Friday afternoon. I was, I admit, surprised and honored that Ken Jennings knew who I was. And if you don't know Ken Jennings, he's simply the greatest Jeopardy champ ever, and he has now replaced the late greatest host ever, Alex Trebek, as the new host of Jeopardy. So during a break in the taping, Ken Jennings actually introduced me to the studio audience. I don't know. I'm having a hard time counting exactly how many. Maybe there were 200 of us in there. Again, we were down in the front row. And usually when I get introduced in those settings, I get booed by about half the people, but nobody at Jeopardy booed me. I don't know, maybe they didn't know who I was, but I did get a nice ovation. Then Ken Jennings had some fun with me in front of the audience, saying something like, hey, Skip, if I make a mistake today, will you get mad at me? Back and forth it went, but I did yell back from my seat, you never. He is something, Ken Jennings. He was in the process of taping 6 straight half-hour Jeopardies in the same day. It is mind-blowing what he had to process in his rare mind through that day. I have no idea how he did it, but he did it. We watched. Didn't see all 6. We saw a couple later in the day, in the afternoon. He was amazing, but we were amazed at how far back the audience sits from the contestants. If you've ever seen the show, it just feels like the audience is right there, pretty much right on top of the contestants. Not the case at all. The seats are far back from the contestants, to the point that even in the front row, we couldn't really make out their expressions as they answered the questions, which you have to obviously answer with a question. We had to watch the monitors. That's how far back the audience seats were. We were very surprised by that. I think this was the first time they'd had fans inside for the show since the pandemic. And by the way, we were required to wear masks and present proof of vaccination. That's LA for you. But the next thing that stunned me was what a huge Hollywood production Jeopardy is. Such a huge, bustling crew everywhere. A row of judges across in front of us, 6 of them. It actually made me very proud of what Shannon and I and our staff pull off every day at the Fox movie lot, where I sit right now, and where we tape, where we are live on Undisputed. That's my point. So when we do Undisputed live, we found during the pandemic that we don't need that many camera operators. Now we're down to just 1 on the floor. in our studio, which is on the second floor of the building I sit in right now. We have one audio tech, one audio person down on the floor. We have one stage manager down on the floor. We have 8 people up in our control room on the 5th floor I'm on right now. And then in our tape room, we have 3 or 4 others of our crack staff who put together and cut the videos that we often use on Undisputed. But the point is, my point to you is, we are live while Jeopardy is being taped. The 2 episodes that we watched won't air until March. So if there's a production mistake or a host mistake, whatever, Jeopardy just stops down, does it again. Ken Jennings can reread, redo clues if necessary. So what you see at home is obviously the final, edited, perfect version of Jeopardy. And what you see on Undisputed, trust me, it is raw, real, live TV. If we mess up, we mess up and it is gone. We do not rehearse. I know the topics. I know kind of the gist of Shannon's positions, just the gist. Little more than that. So where it's about to go, nobody knows, including me. We are competing hard live. We're trying to back each other into a corner, trying to win the debate. It is completely extemporaneous and completely unscripted. That's why I jump out of my bed every morning out here in LA at 2 a.m. I live for live. I thrive on the immediacy of Undisputed, the now, never. The urgency, the electricity, the knowing this is it or else. Back in the day when I was at ESPN, Stephen A. and I, once upon a time, sat in for a couple of weeks for Michael Wilbon, Tony Kornheiser on Pardon the Interruption, which was taped, I think still is taped in Washington, D.C. The actual content on that show is only, 22 or 23 minutes around the commercials. Yeah, it's live to tape. So if the director at that point, Eric Rideholm, if he didn't love the way a segment unfolded or if we messed up, we just do it again. You always had a safety net, and I always hated it. Took some of the edge off, for me anyway, knowing that this take might not be the one and only take. I need the pressure of live. My first show on ESPN, Cold Pizza, was live. First Take was live. For 6 years and 3 months, Shannon and I on Undisputed have been very live, obviously. When the Jeopardy contestants begin to actually compete on the show, well, it might as well be live because nothing is scripted. They're nothing staged. They are forced to answer on the fly instantly, and it's etched in stone. But a contestant might occasionally have to repeat an answer that's already etched in stone, just so Ken Jennings can follow that with maybe a different transition into a commercial break. But for the contestants, man, even from a little bit of a distance, you can feel the mounting pressure all the way over in the front row. Speaking of that pressure, sitting to my left in the front row was the father, and to his left, the mother of the middle of the 3 contestants. They were from Buffalo. Salt of the earth, backbone of America, people from Buffalo, New York. Their son looked to be in, I don't know, his mid-20s maybe. So when Ken Jennings introduced me, the father leaned over and said, "I thought I recognized you." Then he said to me, "My name is Tom Brady." And I thought for a second he was putting me on. But he said, "No, that's my name. And by the way, I had it long before he had it. This gentleman looked to be, I don't know, 60-ish, maybe 15 odd years older than that number 12 down in Tampa Bay. So the game began with his son as the middle contestant. And the two-time that Buffalo Tom Brady's son successfully rang in, it's an art to ring in first, the son choked. He was not Brady-esque. He appeared to just go blank, had no answer, and quickly fell into red number deficit. So just to my left, with our elbows all but touching each other, I could just feel the rising tension in the parents. And when he failed with his answers, I could hear them groan. I was hurting for these two. It was just so embarrassing. Ernestine always says to me that I should do Celebrity Jeopardy because I went to Vanderbilt. And I always say, it's so different playing right here on the couch. I always tell her I'd probably go deer in headlights on the show. Worse for me, I would be a prisoner of and a potential victim of the categories on Jeopardy. If you give me history, literature, geography, anything sports, obviously, I could be pretty good as long as I didn't choke and go blank. But you give me, I don't know, periodic tables or science or astrology or British royalty, I'm dead. So if I actually did do Celebrity Jeopardy, if you know me, I would need a month to study up on all those other categories, and I would take the month to do just that. And obviously, 99.9% of everything I studied and memorized, maybe 100%, would be for naught, left on the cutting room floor, because the odds are those things being in said categories that day would be long. Some nights I sit back on my couch and I look at all 5 of the categories as they pop up, and I think, I got nothing. So, as this game we were watching escalated, Buffalo Tom Brady's son got a couple right. Way to go. Then he missed a couple of more. Then he took one last shot to get out of the red at the end of Double Jeopardy, and he missed. No, please no. That meant he had to leave the set up there. You have to walk away from the set for Final Jeopardy because you were disqualified because you're in the red. Oh, the shame. I was devastated for his parents. I tried to say something nice. Hey, he gave it his best shot. I don't know what I said. It was awful what I said. And Tom Brady, the Buffalo Tom Brady, said back to me, the categories weren't the best for him. Do I ever hear that? And at the end of the show, they said, hey, we got to go try to cheer him up. We bumped fists and they left. And I said, hey, at least you got the bills, which were coming up the next night, for them to watch while they were visiting in LA. At that point, as we walked to our car, I decided to keep my day job doing Undisputed live. I had learned my lesson. I went straight home that evening. We turned on the Jeopardy that we had taped, and I very safely began to display my vast Jeopardy knowledge for Ernestine and Hazel. And that's where I belong. I hope you enjoyed that video. You ready for more? Make sure you click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from the Skip Bayless Show. And don't forget to check out the full episode of the show wherever you get your podcasts by clicking the link in the description.